Kindness has a quiet power, one that rarely announces itself loudly but slowly reshapes lives in ways that strength, money, or fame never can. This is the story of Arav, an ordinary young man living in a crowded city where everyone was running, but very few were truly moving forward. Arav was not rich, influential, or especially talented. He worked a modest job at a small printing shop, earning just enough to pay rent and send a little money back home. Every morning, he traveled on an overcrowded bus, surrounded by tired faces, frustrated sighs, and silent competition. People pushed, argued, and looked through each other as if kindness had become an unnecessary luxury. Arav noticed this, and although he had his own struggles, something inside him refused to harden. He believed, quietly and stubbornly, that kindness mattered, even when no one seemed to notice. Arav's life had not been easy. He had lost his father at a young age, and his mother worked tirelessly to raise him and his younger sister. There were days when food was simple and dreams felt expensive. Yet his mother always told him one thing: you never know what battle another person is fighting, so be gentle whenever you can. That sentence stayed with him, shaping his choices more than any textbook ever could. Even when life tested him, Arav tried to live by those words. At work, he treated customers with patience, even the rude ones. On the bus, he gave his seat to the elderly. On the streets, he smiled at strangers who looked like they had forgotten how to smile back. One rainy evening, after a long and exhausting day, Arav noticed an old man sitting near the shop's entrance. The man looked weak, drenched, and invisible to everyone rushing past. Most people avoided eye contact, afraid of being asked for help. Arav hesitated for a moment, thinking about his own fatigue and the long journey home, but then he remembered his mother's voice. He stepped outside, offered the old man a cup of hot tea, and shared his umbrella while walking him to a nearby shelter. The old man spoke little, but his eyes reflected deep gratitude. Before parting, he said softly, "Kindness never gets lost, son. It always finds its way back." Arav smiled, not expecting anything in return, and continued on his way. Days turned into weeks, and life continued in its usual rhythm. Arav faced problems like everyone else. The printing shop struggled financially, and there were rumors it might close. Arav worried about losing his job, about his family, about the future that felt uncertain and heavy. Some nights, he questioned whether being kind in a harsh world was foolish. He saw people who cheated, lied, and stepped on others succeed faster than those who tried to be good. Doubt crept in quietly, whispering that kindness did not pay bills. Still, despite the doubts, Arav chose not to change who he was, because deep down, he knew that losing kindness would mean losing himself. One morning, a new customer walked into the shop, well-dressed and confident, asking for a large printing order. Arav assisted him patiently, explaining options and suggesting cost-effective solutions. The man observed Arav closely, noticing not just his skills but his attitude. Before leaving, the man asked Arav about his life, his goals, and his challenges. Arav answered honestly, without complaint or exaggeration. A week later, that same man returned with more work and introduced himself as the owner of a growing marketing company. Impressed by Arav's work ethic and character, he offered the shop a long-term contract, saving it from closure. Arav's boss was relieved, and for the first time in months, hope returned to the workplace. Arav did not know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The contract, improved business, and Arav's dedication did not go unnoticed. He trained new staff, helped his colleagues, and often stayed late without being asked. He believed that success shared was success multiplied. When coworkers made mistakes, he corrected them kindly instead of blaming them. Slowly, the atmosphere at the shop changed. People felt safer, more motivated, and more united. Productivity increased, not because of pressure, but because of mutual respect. Arav realized that kindness was not weakness, it was leadership without a title. One evening, while heading home, Arav noticed a young boy sitting alone at a bus stop, crying quietly. Most people passed by, absorbed in their phones. Arav sat beside him and asked gently what was wrong. The boy explained that he was lost and afraid to go home because he had failed an important exam. His parents expected a lot from him, and he felt like a disappointment. Arav listened carefully, remembering his own fears from years ago. He told the boy that failure was not the end, but a lesson, and that his worth was not defined by one exam. He helped the boy contact his parents and waited with him until they arrived. Before leaving, Arav said, "Be kind to yourself. You are still growing." The boy smiled through his tears, carrying those words with him. Life has a strange way of connecting moments. Months later, Arav was invited to speak at a small community event organized by the same marketing company owner. Arav felt nervous, unsure why someone like him was chosen. On stage, he shared his journey, not as a success story, but as a story of persistence, kindness, and learning. He spoke about ordinary struggles and the extraordinary impact of small good actions. He told the audience that you do not need power to make a difference, only intention. His words resonated deeply, especially with young people who felt lost and pressured by expectations. After the event, many people approached Arav, thanking him for his honesty. Among them was the old man from the rainy evening, now healthier and smiling. He revealed that he was a retired teacher who volunteered at the shelter and community programs. He had recognized Arav immediately and had quietly followed his journey from afar. The man said, "I told you kindness finds its way back." Arav felt emotional, realizing how one small act had created a chain of connections he never imagined. As time passed, Arav's life improved, not suddenly, but steadily. He received better opportunities, formed meaningful relationships, and gained confidence. But more importantly, he remained grounded. He continued to help without expecting rewards. He understood that motivation does not always come from success. Sometimes, it comes from knowing you made someone's day a little easier. He learned that kindness gives purpose to effort, and effort gives direction to dreams. The city around Arav did not change overnight, but small changes began to appear. People at the shop treated customers better. The young boy he once helped started tutoring other students, inspired by Arav's words. The shelter received more volunteers. These were not miracles, but ripples. And ripples, when they continue, can change the shape of a shore. Arav realized that the world does not improve because of a few perfect people, but because of many imperfect people choosing kindness again and again. In moments of exhaustion, Arav reminded himself that motivation is not about feeling strong every day. It is about continuing even when you feel weak, about choosing values over convenience. He learned that success without kindness feels empty, but kindness with effort creates a life that feels meaningful. His story was not about becoming famous or wealthy, it was about becoming useful, compassionate, and resilient. If there is one lesson Arav's journey teaches, it is this: you do not need to wait for the world to change before you become better. Start where you are, with what you have, and treat people the way you wish you were treated on your hardest days. Kindness may not always be noticed immediately, but it is never wasted. It builds confidence, strengthens communities, and fuels motivation in ways that no external reward can. And one day, when you least expect it, you will look back and realize that by lifting others, you slowly lifted yourself too.